20 amazing things from the 1970s that are now illegal. Welcome back to a nostalgic journey through the 1970s, a decade characterized by freedom and daring attitudes. An era when numerous everyday activities are now either banned or extremely hazardous. Can you remember when riding a bike without protective headgear was acceptable? Or when it was standard for kids to purchase tobacco products on behalf of their parents? From activities that seemed harmless to radically different cultural standards. What caused such dramatic transformation in our world? Come with us as we examine 20 activities that were routine aspects of everyday living in the 70s, but today could land you in significant legal hot water or endanger your safety. Get ready to experience both nostalgia and astonishment at what has disappeared through the years. Playing on train tracks. Let's start with a childhood experience many of us remember, playing on train tracks. During the 70s, railroad tracks served more than just transportation routes to and from school. They were thrilling adventure zones. Children would frequently balance themselves walking along the steel rails or simply cut across station platforms as shortcuts. Some would even place pennies on the tracks to watch them get flattened by speeding locomotives, a typical yet seemingly harmless trick. During that period, attitudes regarding railway safety were remarkably relaxed. Very few people considered the possible hazards, but the situation has evolved considerably. Nowadays, railroad operators throughout the United States have established stringent anti-trespassing regulations for track zones. Continuous safety awareness programs emphasize the grave dangers as contemporary trains move faster and more quietly, requiring significantly longer stopping distances than their predecessors. Entering railroad property unauthorized isn't just potentially fatal, it also carries substantial monetary penalties and criminal charges. What once represented innocent childhood fun has transformed into an unlawful and extremely perilous act, clackers toys. Continuing with hazardous childhood entertainment, do you recall clackers? This plaything enjoyed tremendous popularity during the 70s. Thrilling, yet surprisingly dangerous. It consisted of two weighted glossy acrylic spheres linked by a cord. The objective was to rapidly swing them vertically so they'd collide with a satisfying clacking noise. The quicker your motion, the louder the sound, and the higher the probability you'd strike your hand, or worse still, your face. Clackers provided considerable entertainment, but they weren't without hazards. Losing control could result in the spheres hitting your face, creating bruises or even fragmenting into dangerous shards, potentially causing severe harm. Because of increasing injury statistics, clackers received complete prohibitions in numerous schools and community spaces. In certain instances, as additional sources have noted, they were outlawed due to the injuries they inflicted. Eventually, toy makers had to redesign clackers using gentler, safer components to avoid mishaps. What once served as a challenge of patience, timing, and motor skills now stands as a prime illustration of how toy safety has become paramount. Lawn darts, moving forward with 70s playthings that have vanished. Do you recall lawn darts? This was a typical backyard activity during the 70s, especially at summer cookouts. The concept was straightforward. You'd hurl large metal projectiles with pointed ends toward a ring-shaped target on the grass. The satisfaction of executing a precise throw and hearing that solid thump when the dart struck the earth was thrilling. Yet the alarming reality was that these projectiles weren't just weighty. They were sharp enough to penetrate the soil and sometimes flesh. Just one errant toss or a youngster inadvertently entering the play zone could result in grave injury or fatality. Devastating incidents led parents and officials to raise concerns. Ultimately, by the late 80s, the United States government imposed a total prohibition on selling and using sharp-tipped lawn darts. Currently, if you locate a lawn dart set, they feature rounded ends constructed from safer weighted materials for tossing, but they no longer present the danger of the original design. Easy bake oven. Transitioning from outdoor playthings to an indoor childhood favorite, the easy bake oven. During the 70s, nothing compared to the ability to prepare your own miniature cakes and treats with this incredible oven. It was every youngster's fantasy realized. And the most remarkable aspect? It utilized simply an ordinary light bulb for cooking your goodies. As an additional source similarly notes, the Easy Bake Oven relied on just a standard light bulb for cooking treats, and the excitement came from creating it independently. you'd tear open the dessert mix packages, combine the ingredients, and slide the small baking tray into the oven. Then you'd relax and anticipate, observing the light bulb work its wonder. Though the outcomes weren't consistently delicious, occasionally they turned out somewhat odd. That was irrelevant. The genuine pleasure came from the experience and the pride of declaring, "I created this." Nevertheless, that very light bulb presented a considerable danger. It became extremely hot, frequently exceeding temperatures of 175 degrees Celsius, 350 degrees Fahrenheit, placing youngsters in danger of serious burns if they inadvertently contacted the oven's interior. Injury statistics climbed, with some children experiencing second-degree burns. During the early 2000s, contemporary easy-bake ovens substituted the light bulb with safer enclosed heating components. This plaything continues to evoke warm memories, but in retrospect, it's remarkable how it once created such a serious burn hazard. Children could buy cigarettes. Now let's address something that modern generations might consider inconceivable. During the 70s, youngsters could readily purchase cigarettes. Tobacco use was extremely prevalent during that time, to the extent that it was ordinary for a youngster to enter a convenience store and obtain a cigarette pack for their parents. Occasionally, they'd carry a small slip of paper with a parent's handwritten authorization, and occasionally they required no age verification whatsoever. Cigarette dispensing machines were also ubiquitous, from dining establishments to community locations, enabling anyone with spare change to obtain cigarettes. Presently, circumstances have transformed drastically. Rigorous age requirements, comprehensive identification verification, and smoking prohibitions in public spaces are extensively implemented. A youngster attempting to purchase cigarettes today faces legal consequences and will encounter serious penalties. Cigarette vending machines have become relics of history, appearing only in nostalgic cinema. This transformation demonstrates how significantly public health consciousness has advanced. High school smoking areas, remaining on the subject of tobacco, another practice that was commonplace during the 70s but has now entirely vanished, is designated high school smoking zones. Correct, you understood that properly. Numerous high schools during that period featured specific authorized locations where students could smoke openly during breaks. Teenagers could lawfully smoke their cigarettes without any resistance. Even numerous educators smoked on campus premises, creating a considerably smoke-filled environment. Nevertheless, as public health consciousness and understanding of secondhand smoke hazards increased, perspectives started shifting. During the late 80s, schools began eliminating these smoking zones, and during the 90s, the concept of students and educators openly smoking on educational grounds became genuinely shocking and virtually non-existent. This clearly demonstrates how society has evolved and made the health of younger generations a priority. Of all the practices from the 70s we've examined thus far, which one astonished you most to discover was once commonplace? Share your thoughts in the comments. Cigarette ads on TV. And discussing how widespread cigarettes were during the 70s, we must mention cigarette commercials on television. Visuals of tough cowboys on horseback, fashionable celebrities, or sophisticated gentlemen casually smoking saturated television programming. These commercials were crafted to portray smoking as appealing, fashionable, and even a marker of achievement. Cigarettes were marketed as an essential component of existence, from peaceful moments to gatherings. Nevertheless, health worries intensified as research studies started definitively demonstrating the connection between smoking and grave illnesses. Demands from citizens and health advocates resulted in significant restrictions. During 1971, the United States government enacted a comprehensive prohibition on cigarette marketing on television and radio. Though the tobacco sector subsequently adapted by redirecting marketing toward print publications, sponsoring athletic competitions, and appearing in Hollywood productions, this shift represented a significant turning point in combating tobacco, fundamentally altering the media environment and how we receive health messaging. Smoking on airplanes. If you traveled by air during the 70s, you'll immediately recall the image of aircraft cabins frequently dense with tobacco smoke. During that period, smoking aboard planes was entirely acceptable, and despite airlines maintaining smoking and non-smoking zones, smoke still drifted everywhere, saturating the whole cabin. Ashtrays were integrated directly into each armrest, available for travelers to utilize. You could readily observe the individual beside you lighting up a cigarette with minimal consideration for surrounding passengers. Nevertheless, as the hazards of secondhand smoke became more evident, demands from citizens and health advocates escalated substantially. Individuals began recognizing that breathing others' smoke also inflicted serious health damage. Responding to these worries, smoking received a ban on brief domestic routes in the United States during 1988. And during 2000, this regulation became even more comprehensive. Smoking received a complete prohibition on all routes in the United States, whether brief or extended, domestic or international. This represented a significant shift that resulted in cleaner air and safeguarded the health of countless travelers. Loose seatbelt laws. Shifting to road safety, something we consider standard today, wasn't guaranteed during the 70s. Extremely relaxed seatbelt regulations. During that time, wearing a seatbelt was mainly an individual decision rather than a mandatory safety practice. Numerous drivers believed seatbelts were confining or even hazardous in specific collisions. Even more remarkably, numerous vehicles from that period didn't even feature seatbelts in rear seating, and youngsters were frequently permitted to move around freely in vehicles with no child restraints or protective devices whatsoever. The sight of a youngster standing on the forward seat or resting on an adult's lap while the vehicle was in motion was typical. Nevertheless, with increasing traffic collisions and studies on seatbelt importance, circumstances started evolving. New York established itself as the initial state to implement a compulsory seatbelt regulation during 1984. Following that, research by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, NHTSA, validated that seatbelts decreased death risk by 45% for forward seat occupants and 60% for rear seat occupants. During the 90s, seatbelt regulations became universal throughout the United States. This represented an essential transformation that preserved countless lives and reshaped our driving practices. Minimal child car seat regulations. Building upon traffic safety during the 70s, child car seat regulations were virtually non-existent. Most parents during that period simply depended on regular vehicle seat belts, or even worse, held youngsters on their laps while traveling by automobile. Though child car seats existed, they were primarily created for practicality rather than protection. No rigorous collision test criteria were enforced on these seats, indicating they didn't genuinely safeguard youngsters in a collision. Nevertheless, a landmark 1985 research by NHTSA entirely transformed this understanding. The research disclosed a devastating reality. Automobile collisions were the primary cause of fatality for youngsters aged 1 to 4. This figure was alarming and triggered a powerful movement of transformations in perspectives and regulations. Consequently, presently every state throughout the United States has enacted compulsory child safety seat regulations. These seats must satisfy rigorous safety criteria and experience comprehensive collision testing, guaranteeing maximum protection for our youngest travelers. Drunk driving with high BAC limits. Another grave matter connected to traffic safety during the 70s was the shockingly prevalent habit of consuming alcohol and driving. The lawful blood alcohol concentration, BAC thresholds during that time, were also considerably more permissive than presently. In numerous states, you could lawfully operate a vehicle with a BAC of 0.10% or above, a concentration deemed extremely hazardous currently. Consuming several drinks and subsequently driving home wasn't uncommon, and recognition of the dangers of this conduct was very minimal. Nevertheless, the results of intoxicated driving became intolerable, particularly with rising fatal collisions. During the late 70s and early 80s, an influential advocacy group emerged, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, MADD. MAD and additional advocacy organizations campaigned relentlessly to enact stricter DUI, driving under the influence regulations. Consequently, during the mid-80s, most states had reduced the lawful BAC threshold to 0.08%. This campaign entirely transformed how we perceive driving following alcohol consumption, converting it from an acceptable conduct into a grave offense, minimal airport security. Now picture a reality where air travel was remarkably convenient and straightforward. That's precisely what airport security resembled during the 70s. No extended security queues, no X-ray screening devices, and you didn't need to remove your footwear or concern yourself with liquid limitations. Travelers could proceed directly to the departure gate, greeting relatives and companions right in the boarding zone. Cockpit entrances weren't secured during flight. Occasionally, pilots even kept them open. The experience of flying during that period was genuinely unrestricted and without constraints. Nevertheless, this absence of security carried a significant cost, with a dramatic rise in hijackings, exceeding 200 documented during 1972 alone. But it was the terrorist incidents of September 11, 2001 that transformed everything permanently. Following that catastrophe, the Aviation and Transportation Security Act received approval, resulting in the creation of the TSA, Transportation Security Administration. The TSA enforced unprecedented rigorous security protocols, from comprehensive baggage inspections to complete body scanning, rendering the air travel experience entirely different from previously. What from the 70s do you believe should never have received a ban? Or is there something you wish could return to being commonplace? Share your perspective in the comments. Drinking age of 18. Returning to significant legal and cultural transformations during the 70s, here's a fascinating detail many presently might not realize. The lawful drinking age in numerous states was 18. This followed the 26th Amendment receiving ratification during 1971, reducing the voting age from 21 to 18. The reasoning during that period was that if you possess sufficient maturity to vote, serve militarily, and defend your nation, you should also be permitted to purchase and consume alcohol. Therefore, observing 18-year-olds freely purchasing beer and spirits was not uncommon. Nevertheless, this modification resulted in grave unexpected results. Intoxicated driving collisions increased dramatically. Research demonstrated alcohol contributed to exceeding 60% of traffic deaths. Considering the circumstances, during 1984, the United States Congress enacted the National Minimum Drinking Age Act, compelling states to elevate the drinking age to 21 by threatening to reduce federal highway funding. During 1988, all 50 states had embraced the elevated drinking age, a determination that, though disputed initially, demonstrated successful in decreasing collisions and safeguarding community welfare. Child labor. Another element of the 70s that we find challenging to accept presently is the existence of child labor. Though the Fair Labor Standards Act, FLSA, had existed since 1938, child labor regulations were still comparatively lenient. It wasn't uncommon for youngsters to work, particularly in farming, household enterprises, or low-income families. Numerous parents during that period believed that maintaining employment from an early age helped develop character, accountability, and self-discipline in their youngsters. Youngsters frequently performed physical labor, assisted in retail establishments, or worked in agricultural fields. Nevertheless, with cultural advancement, worries about the hazards of child labor emerged, especially youngsters' contact with dangerous equipment or harmful substances. During 1976, the Child Labor Amendment received introduction, and it wasn't until 1989 that the United Nations embraced the Convention on the Rights of the Child, establishing the groundwork for safeguarding children's rights internationally. Presently, the United States has strengthened regulations under the FLSA, forbidding youngsters from working in dangerous environments and restricting their employment hours. This has helped safeguard countless youngsters from potential employment-related dangers, owning exotic pets without permits. You might be astonished to discover that during the 70s, possessing unusual exotic animals without authorization was very typical and mostly uncontrolled. Individuals could readily purchase a distinctive iguana, a vibrant macaw, or even a substantial boa constrictor from animal shops with minimal supervision. Source documentation or maintenance regulations were virtually non-existent, and most significantly, no special authorization was necessary to possess these creatures. Nevertheless, as the exotic animal commerce expanded, worries about community safety, creature welfare, and environmental consequences also grew. There were occurrences of escaped or deserted animals, occasionally becoming invasive organisms that adversely influenced indigenous ecosystems. To confront this, the United States Fish and Wildlife Service implemented regulations during 1980. And during the late 90s and early 2000s, most states had enacted legislation requiring authorization to possess exotic animals, guaranteeing that their possession is more rigorously managed and safer for both creatures and communities. Red dye, number 2. Moving to nutrition and wellness, during the 70s, a food ingredient generated significant worry. Red dye, number 2. This manufactured colorant was extensively utilized to produce a brilliant red hue in numerous foods and beverages. Nevertheless, research started suggesting a connection between this colorant and possible health dangers. Though findings weren't definitive, citizen anxiety intensified. Fascinatingly, even M&Ms, despite never utilizing red dye number 2, they utilized red number 40, determined to discontinue manufacturing red M&Ms during 1976 to prevent generating customer worry. Ultimately, to guarantee consumer protection, the United States officially prohibited red dye number 2 during 1976. Red M&Ms subsequently returned during 1987 when red number 40 was considered safe. This represents a prime illustration of how citizen perception, though occasionally not entirely founded on absolute scientific evidence, can substantially influence commercial determinations and governmental regulations. Cyclamate sweetener. Another food ingredient that was very prevalent during the 60s and 70s but subsequently prohibited is cyclamates. This manufactured sweetening agent was 30 times sweeter than sugar and calorie-free, rendering it an optimal component in diet carbonated beverages and sugar-free items. With the explosion in diet movements, cyclamates rapidly became a standard component of the American diet. Nevertheless, during 1969, significant worries emerged. A research study suggested that exceedingly elevated quantities of cyclamates could generate bladder tumors in laboratory mice. Though this quantity was considerably higher than human intake amounts, the apprehension of a connection to cancer motivated the United States government to respond immediately. The United States prohibited this sweetening agent during 1969, and it was formally withdrawn from the marketplace during 1970. Fascinatingly, while the United States prohibited it, numerous additional nations like Canada and European countries still permit the utilization of cyclamates, demonstrating variations in international food safety regulations. Leaded gasoline. Now let's address a significant environmental transformation we frequently disregard, but which had extensive consequences: leaded gasoline. During the 70s, virtually every fuel station throughout the United States distributed leaded gasoline, a fuel supplement that had been utilized for generations to enhance engine efficiency and make automobiles operate more smoothly. The characteristic odor of vehicle emissions during that period was also connected to the existence of lead in the atmosphere. Nevertheless, a grave health issue surfaced. When automobiles combusted leaded fuel, they discharged toxic lead fragments into the atmosphere. Research studies started connecting lead contact to critical health problems in humans, particularly youngsters, generating developmental impairments and neurological damage. Considering this definitive evidence during the mid-70s, the United States government responded, progressively eliminating leaded gasoline from the marketplace. During the 90s, leaded gasoline had virtually entirely vanished, representing a substantial achievement for public health and the environment. Lead paint. And if you believed lead was exclusively in gasoline, recall lead-based paint. During the 70s, lead-based paint was remarkably prevalent. It was utilized to coat residences, educational facilities, playground structures, playthings, and even infant beds. It was preferred for its superior resilience, excellent color preservation, and attractive shine. The vision of brilliantly colored, long-lasting residence was frequently attributable to this variety of paint. Nevertheless, similar to leaded gasoline, studies on lead poisoning from paint expanded, demonstrating that youngsters contacted with lead particles or deteriorating paint could experience grave health issues such as developmental impairments, organ harm, and numerous additional ailments. This was a concealed danger within our very residences. Consequently, during 1978, lead-based paint received a ban for utilization in dwellings. Though the prohibition received approval, the fact remains that countless older residences from those generations still possess this paint, necessitating safe management protocols during renovations to safeguard the health of subsequent generations. Flame retardants. Something else that was commonplace but is presently rigorously restricted is flame retardants. During the 70s, these substances were ubiquitous in our everyday existence, from youngsters' sleepwear and furnishings to regular clothing. Their function was to avoid fires, decelerate burning, and enhance the safety of products. Individuals during that period believed this was an essential protective action. Nevertheless, what few comprehended during that period were the possible hazards of these very substances. Research progressively demonstrated that flame retardants could be absorbed through skin or breathing passages and started connecting them to grave health problems like hormonal disruption and cancer. This resulted in the establishment of more rigorous regulations and the prohibition of numerous varieties of flame retardants during the 2000s. Particularly, aged furnishings, particularly from the 70s and 80s, can still possess elevated concentrations of these harmful substances, demonstrating the enduring consequences of historical industrial determinations. Selling raw milk. A disputed 70s recollection. Do you recall the flavor of fresh, full-fat milk dispensed directly from a glass container and advertised for innumerable health advantages? During the 1970s, purchasing raw milk that hadn't received pasteurization, was entirely commonplace, even desired for its rich consistency and alleged health advantages. Agricultural producers and small dairy operations frequently distributed their products directly to buyers with no limitations on this activity. It was a period when natural and unprocessed was extremely appreciated, and numerous believed it was the optimal nutrition source. Nevertheless, beneath the attractive appearance and health convictions, a frightening concealed danger was developing. Worries about foodborne ailments started surfacing, directly connected to consuming unpasteurized milk. We're discussing grave pathogens like Salmonella, E. coli, and Listeria, which could generate critical infection episodes. During the 80s, the warning signals rang more intensely than previously. Health authorities started publicly cautioning about grave health dangers, especially the hazard of infection episodes from raw milk. An essential turning point arrived during 1987 when the United States Food and Drug Administration, FDA, enacted a regulation mandating pasteurization for all interstate milk distribution. Following that, individual states rapidly adopted similar policies, enforcing progressively rigorous regulations to safeguard their residents. Presently, the narrative of raw milk remains a disputed subject. Some states still permit its distribution under exceedingly rigorous circumstances, while numerous others have entirely prohibited it. In retrospect, it's challenging to accept that a beverage once regarded as a fundamental item for numerous families has presently become such a complicated and disputed legal matter. This clearly demonstrates how fundamentally food safety consciousness and regulations have evolved through the generations. What do you believe about raw milk still receiving legal distribution in certain locations presently? Is it an unnecessary danger or a liberty of selection? Candy cigarettes. Ultimately, if you matured during the 1970s, you certainly recall a sweet confection that was a fundamental component of childhood: candy cigarettes. They were extensively available in every convenience store, created with remarkable precision to replicate genuine cigarettes. They even featured pristine white paper coverings and a crimson tip resembling a burning cigarette. Some even featured a burst of powdered sugar, producing an illusionary vapor of smoke when youngsters exhaled into them, rendering the imaginative play even more authentic. It was limitless entertainment, imitating how adults grasped, gestured, and smoked candy cigarettes with fashionable style. During that period, most parents didn't reconsider these confections. Why? Because smoking was remarkably prevalent during that time. You could observe smokers ubiquitously on television, with attractive commercials for the Marlboro Man or Joe Camel in dining establishments, even aboard aircraft. Even more remarkably, high schools even featured authorized smoking locations for students, and educators frequently smoked at their workstations. Therefore, it was comprehensible that youngsters desired to replicate adults. Nevertheless, as recognition of the health dangers of smoking expanded, that's when worries about candy cigarettes started emerging. Opponents contended that these candy products normalized smoking conduct in youngsters, possibly guiding them to genuine smoking as they matured. During the late 20th century, prohibitions and packaging modifications were implemented. Numerous nations limited the distribution of candy cigarettes or mandated them to be renamed candy sticks and have all cigarette-resembling designs eliminated. Presently, it's challenging to envision a confection so intimately associated with the imagery of cigarettes receiving extensive distribution to youngsters. But during the 70s, it was simply a standard treat on the candy display. Closing. Eras have evolved, and regulations have transformed accordingly. What was once standard practice, an essential component of everyday existence during the 1970s, is presently historical or even unlawful. We trust this journey down a memory lane has provided you with memorable recollections and profound understanding into a distinctive, vibrant, but also hazardous generation. Do you recall any additional remarkable practices from the 70s that are presently prohibited? Contribute them in the comments section. If you appreciated this nostalgic exploration, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel so you don't overlook our upcoming compelling videos, and distribute this video with your companions to revisit those wonderful memories collectively. Thanks for viewing, and we'll encounter you on our subsequent time travel expedition.